So you got all the supplies that you need for watercolor. You got the brushes, the paint, the paper, and you even know some brush strokes. So you're ready to paint. And then you end up with something like this. It's by no means bad, it's a start, but it's missing something. Probably this. This is what will take your painting to the next level, composition. In this video, I'll be going over the definition, the different types, and examples of composition. So let's get started. So firstly, what is composition? It is to form something together cohesively, such as music, art, literature, and even compounds of chemicals. But what it means specifically for art is how you proportion your work or make things look connected and relative. Basically, how do I make this piece look interesting to look at, and where do I want people to look? What emotion am I portraying? Do I want people to be happy, nostalgic, remorseful, or even sad when they look at my pieces? You've probably experienced those emotions yourself when you saw a very beautiful and interesting piece. Admiring the lightness of a landmark, the shading of a building in the middle of the woods, or how the colors pop and work together. Now you got your subject, but you need to think about how it looks. Like I said before, this piece is fine. It's just a little flat. You want to relate to others or to yourself what inspired you to make this piece. Think about when you take a picture. You want good lighting and positioning or a focal point to make the picture pleasing to look at. It's one of the reasons I look to photography and references. You're telling a story or reminding yourself of a feeling, and you want to express that when you share your picture. And there are several different ways to express through many types of compositions, but I'm sure most of you have heard the rule of thirds grid. I've seen some cameras with this preset so you can use it as guidance, but mainly, we see it everywhere. In ads, pictures, comics, manga, magazines, albums, and literature, and even video. Shows and movies plan their shots in storyboarding and use compositions to engage their audience. Let's draw the grid. Now you might think the squares are what we're looking at, like in the corners, in the middle square, or the sides here. But actually it's these focal points that cross here and here where you want to consider planning your piece. Understanding that will open so many types of compositions that stem from this. First, the C shape, also known as the U shape or circle, our eyes are drawn to recognize this shape almost immediately, and there in the center completes the piece. I made this with a focus and detail on the tree and rocks, but since I shaped it like this, you will notice the land through it a little quicker. Unbalanced, or also known as asymmetrical, it's probably one of my favorite compositions. For me, it just immediately draws the eye in, and this also helps with some perspective and depth for the viewer, making your piece a little bit more dynamic. Balanced, or symmetry, is all about balancing, not exactly mirroring the other side. You can, if you want, use front view portraits this way since they are typically symmetrical. Or this piece here, not exactly the same, but like the namesake, balanced. Double diagonal or cross is another one that's good for perspective pieces or even just to break some of that space. In this piece I add power lines with some birds on it to section off some of that sky. V-shape or triangle are good for singular subjects like a pot or a portrait and so on. Mainly though, you're drawing the eye to the point of the V and that's where the focus will be. Knowing these types of composition will make your pieces more interesting, and it's good practice to take your paintings to the next level. There's even a few more, like color, shapes, and contrast. And combining those with the compositions I mentioned will really help you out on your art journey. Hey, what about the golden ratio? That. That is apparently the formula to use when making portions in your art. It is very precise, it is mathematical, and I hate math. I just don't quite get the science and math behind it, except that you can't help but notice, and it's always the most appealing section of the painting. Famous artists have studied them and made lovely paintings around this composition. I've seen it used upright, flipped, sideways. I just don't know how to use it, and frankly, it's a bit intimidating to me. But maybe someday. But classical artists use them. Do you need to use them? No. But what if you want to try it? Sure, go ahead, and if you don't, that's fine too. It is not required to apply this to your paintings. You'll unintentionally make one once in a while, it's bound to happen, but I find it much easier to understand these other compositions, and I'll apply those to my pieces. And that is the end of my 4-part beginner's guide to watercolor. I hope you learned something and want to apply it to your own watercolor journey. This was something I've been wanting to do for a while, and it was a big project to do, so I do really appreciate any likes or comments that you give. If you enjoy the series or have a question for me, let me know in the comments below and I'll respond to them all. Have a great day. Bye!